Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Cliff Notes podcast, where we ask a leader and find a way. Today, Jack has joined me from Applegate. How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm really well, really well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Turning a little bit down, but still happy times.
Well, that's it. We're based in North Devon, and people seem to have this perception of it being sort of the sunniest place in the world. But actually, having moved here 2 years ago, I've never lived somewhere where the weather is more miserable. So I'm looking forward to escaping back to London for the holiday weekend. That's for sure.
So, could you give us a little bit more of a background on Applegate and how you help the industry?
Absolutely. So Applegate have been around since the mid sort of 1990s now, and a lot of engineers and manufacturers in particular will remember us as the Applegate directory, where you'd come to Applegate to find a supplier of a product or a service, as I say, particularly manufacturers or in electronics and things like that, and you'd literally trawl through a directory of sort of listings, and a case of almost the more you pay, the more you get. We've very much moved on from that now. So in the last few years, we've started to offer two sort of real sides to the business. So our core offering is a procurement marketplace, and we get sort of hundreds of buyers coming to us to buy stuff. And what they want is they want to come to us and get multiple quotes for any one sort of product or service. So we offer that sort of procurement system. Obviously, a lot of those old suppliers who are with us in that directory model have transferred over. So our core is still engineering and manufacturing. So someone might come to us looking for some CNC machine work or some 3D printing and all that sort of stuff. And we've got suppliers that we invite to that request. It's quite cool how we do it, actually. We've started to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to pair suppliers with requests. And whenever a supplier quotes, the buyer receives an email, can click in and view everything online. So sort of bringing that directory model of purchasing and sourcing suppliers into the 21st century, and helping suppliers with their quote management and making it easy for them, as well as keeping all of that sort of directory stuff available for those who like to do it the other way, and sort of increasing exposure and engagement with engineers and manufacturers who I think it's fair to say traditionally their space is sort of churning out CNC turned parts and not Python code and websites.
But it's connecting people and orders. It's not any sort of automated sales system.
No, so not an automated sales system, but using artificial intelligence. So we connect buyers with suppliers to get quotes for the things that they need.
I mean, what brought you to this? I mean, what's your background?
So I'm a marketer. So I look after a lot of the sort of social media. Currently doing a website project here. PR, all that sort of thing. I sort of fell into this space and sort of procurement within manufacturing and engineering. But what's really interesting is sort of going out to trade shows and meeting clients, and I've sort of got a bizarre knowledge of engineering and manufacturing now, and probably less so of some of the marketing things that I should know about. So yeah, very much sort of fell into this space, that's for sure.
But now you can you got to focus on helping people make connections and either subcontract out their work or pitch for work themselves.
Yeah, that's it. And again, sort of bringing that into the 21st century and making it easy. So making those connections easier for buyers. Certainly, everything we offer for a buyer is free, just to make sure that people are getting quotes in a way that's easy, that's sort of making sure that they're getting things at the right price, so they're buying responsibly, and sort of taking that hassle away from buyers. And it's my job to sort of get buyers and suppliers on board with that idea, on board with that messaging, and sort of help people transition from that old way of purchasing to having a pre-approved supplier list that you'll work with for 30 years, no matter whether their pricing might be changing or the quality they deliver might be different, and sort of getting them on board with what we're doing, which is working terrifically well at the moment.
Do you find that you're working with procurement here, or is it straight with the companies?
Well, what's really interesting is, depending on the size of the business, some businesses will have procurement or purchasing functions, and they'll be very used to sort of doing things properly, if you like, and going through those protocols. others won't, and I think particularly in the engineering and manufacturing space, that's very true because they've not really needed to. Um, so yeah, we sort of deal with a whole range of people, from business owners to administrators to procurement personnel. So it's a huge range of different people, and it's really interesting, sort of altering your approach depending on who you're speaking with.
So it's a professional service, but no means that you need to have a particular background to. You can help people get on with the service and get.
Oh, it couldn't be easier. Couldn't be easier. Um, a lot of what we do is self-service, and it's because the online function is so self-explanatory. It's so easy. If you're a buyer, you tell us what you want, we put it into our system, we do the hard work for you, and you get quotes delivered to your inbox. So no matter who you are, it's accessible, it's easy, and it's free to do.
Mhm. And then sort of keeping with that manufacturing space, because I understand you don't just work it in that sector. But I mean, if you've got an idea of, I mean, what sort of requests do you get, or what sort of work's going through?
So we have absolutely everything from CNC machining to projects at universities for whole new buildings within the manufacturing space. Goodness, we have things for raw materials from Rolls-Royce is one of my clients here in terms of buyers. Um, Goodness gracious, absolutely anything you can think of within the manufacturing and engineering space, we've seen it. We've seen it, as I say, from Rolls-Royce, from SpaceX. Those are the sorts of clients we deal with, from small sort of one-off prototypes to aeronautical engineering projects. We facilitate it all.
And it's sort of a high quality on sort of both sides. You've mentioned a few good names there, but putting work on there, you're going to get a good service back, or do you get to pick who comes through?
Well, we'd like to think that our suppliers are sort of top notch, but we've now very recently introduced a functionality within the sort of buyer dashboard, if you like, so where you'd view your quotes online, to sort of add suppliers to your pre-approved list, your blacklist, if you like, but you may have worked with them before, for instance, and it's not quite worked, or they might be your existing supplier. Those to include in every request. So we've added in that functionality so that anyone can purchase properly, anyone can add people to their blacklist or their whitelist. So yeah, sort of filtering suppliers like the big procurement teams do in big businesses, but allowing anyone to do it and make things easy.
Great. That's helpful. I mean, especially if you needed a competitive quote against someone you're not sure on a new part or something that you don't necessarily want to pitch back to them for the same work and damage that relationship.
Exactly. And we've seen that in the past. People, that does happen. So sort of being able to introduce that functionality was really key for us, and it's certainly been useful for particularly our bigger clients who have pre-approved supplier lists that they can send through. And if any of those suppliers tally up to those on our records, we're very upfront and say that we sort of remove that invitation for that supplier. Because it's a waste of time for the supplier as well, and it adds confusion that's not necessary. So yeah, really exciting piece of kit that we've introduced there, and that's been really useful so far.
Sponsorship of this podcast has been brought to you by Holding Bay, the digital web agency. Holding Bay specialises in working with B2B companies like manufacturers to build better solutions and drive better sales funnels. So if you would like to build a web application or improve your branding and sales funnel, get in contact today. holdingbay.co.uk or call us on 01273 044 019. And just sort of moving then as a bit more advice side, do you have any advice as to people sort of using the system, or if they want to go out for more work?
So in terms of suppliers, obviously we've literally got tens of thousands of suppliers on our books, and that's less of a brag and more sort of explaining that means that we have lots and lots of data, and we've got some guys here who really enjoy sort of churning through that data and sort of looking at how that might translate into winning business, and from what we can see. particularly within portals such as ours, but not just our portal, but any sort of procurement or purchasing website, is if there's a sort of standardized way of responding, respond in that way. If people are sort of using a function like this to get multiple prices, the reason is because they want direct responses. They don't want phone calls or emails. They want to be able to go in, compare prices, compare offerings, and go from there. So we always tell people to respond directly. The second thing is, of course, in this space, as much as things are about quantity, it's obviously price competitive. So making sure that you are sort of competing at the best price you can be to be profitable. And also to respond quickly. It's really, really interesting to see that the quicker you respond, the more likely you are to win business. Because as we'll know, that in spaces like this, a lot of these projects are sort of dependent on time, and more and more in business and in this space, people are time poor. So functions like this that people are using to give themselves back time, as much as the most you can do to help them is to respond quickly, and that's certainly sort of taken well by people purchasing and prospects. Sort of love that it makes things easier for them. The quicker you respond, the more likely you are to win business. So respond directly, respond at the best price you can, and respond quickly. And I think some people overlook that speed of response, and that's something I really like to emphasize.
Great, those are good things. And so moving into that space of once people are working with you and doing this, have you seen the sort of space change or work that yourselves are doing that's sort of exciting you about where things are going with the industry? We see seems to be still this year that there's both positive news and sort of mixed news coming out of investments in the run up to Brexit and the next sort of 5 years. Have you seen any changes or anything that you guys are excited about?
Well, as someone sort of relatively new to this sort of industry, I've been really, really excited by the sort of positivity that people in this industry have, and the sort of can-do attitude, particularly speaking to clients and others at sort of trade shows at the start of the year in particular, and whether their viewpoint has changed as the Brexit landscape has changed, I don't know. But we've certainly made sure that we'll be prepared for Brexit, and certainly for a no-deal Brexit. And we've provided advice to our clients, and to our buyers. Obviously, leaving the EU means that there are going to be several actions for businesses. We're still unsure as to whether the UK will leave with or without a deal. I think it's looking increasingly like it will be a no-deal Brexit. But that will mean things like, changes to import processes and export processes, changes to VAT, changes to certifications and product compliance, changes to tariffs. So yeah, we've been providing as much advice as we can do to make sure that our UK suppliers who sell into Europe, and our European suppliers who sell into the UK, and those who purchase from suppliers across the EU, are sort of prepared for Brexit. So as much as we're not sure what's going on, we're trying our absolute best to make sure that we can help in any way that we can.
And do you then cover more than just the UK? You're covering Europe or further afield?
So our sort of spread of supply is probably about 60% or 65% in the UK, and the rest sort of across the globe. Particularly in the manufacturing space, it's we've got a few suppliers sort of dotted around Europe, a couple in Poland, who seem to be doing well at the moment, and obviously a few in the East in Asia as well. So yeah, a fair old spread of supplies, it's fair to say.
Mm-hmm. So you're able to sort of keep up and see how these different markets are sort of moving, to give you a bit of a sense.
Yeah, and we can do that in sort of quantitative terms rather. We can do it by analyzing the data, and I can say that we've had more suppliers on Applegate winning business than ever since we launched our new purchasing platform on Applegate. So things certainly aren't slowing down in that sense, but also we can do that through, having conversations with our thousands of suppliers, and understanding them and their business, what we can do to help them, what we can do to help them ramp up as well and sort of gear up for Brexit preparations.
So, I mean, along with this sort of the international work, there is the potential that that a lot of suppliers and relationships will need to either adjust or change. So there may be opportunities as well, maybe more local suppliers or different routes with things that may also open up a marketplace as an interesting way to sort of explore new relationships and make new connections.
Absolutely, and as I say, it's the positive attitude that is really refreshing from UK suppliers of manufactured goods in particular. To say, sort of come over if the pound is weakening like it looks, that means that it's going to be cheaper to export. So companies are going to be happy with that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I'm just not entirely sure how that looks at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess everyone has to sort of be forewarned for but it's still a very changing situation. It was probably hard after a conversation around the sort of Brexit side. But have you got any sort of aspirations, both for Applegate in the next years, or things that you're seeing people move into or expand?
Well, I mean, in terms of Brexit in particular, we are perhaps better placed than other businesses in that we don't have a tangible product that we sell and export. So there's less to worry about that way, and things might change in terms of legislation. But we are very well prepared for that, and sort of financially speaking as well, we've made the preparations we need. But we've done a lot of research, and I've sort of written some things to help our clients on that. In terms of technology, as I say, we're sort of moving into artificial intelligence and machine learning. We've received grants from Innovate UK, and work closely with the University of Exeter to develop machine learning systems to match buyers and suppliers, to understand those relationships, to understand what exactly suppliers can sell, all the way down to materials and grades, and matching them with requests moving forward. And that's really, really exciting in terms of that. And we did an event recently on intelligence in business. How can businesses be more intelligent? So we spoke about artificial intelligence, we spoke about procurement, we spoke about Brexit, and we also spoke about recruitment. So how can businesses be more intelligent in recruitment? And that's certainly something we've started to move towards in the last couple of years. So we now run a very successful degree apprenticeship scheme. I think we're sort of moving towards having, goodness, 9 or 10 apprentices. So we've got at the moment 1 in finance, 2 in our sort of sales and client services departments, and 1 looking after working very well in the HR function, 1 looking after our sort of IT function, a couple in our sort of marketing function. So that is something we're really, really keen on. And looking at how that sort of job landscape is changing, and how we can recruit locally, I think it's fair to say that in the southwest, it can be very difficult to recruit. There are certainly regional difficulties in recruitment, and that's why we try and offer the absolute best we can in terms of the offering of employment, but also the culture we have here. So our culture has changed in terms of silly little things, like our dress code has changed. We've got a pool table in the office. We have sort of organized events and activities. Breakfast is provided in the office. So looking at how we can make sort of recruitment and selection and sort of our HR approach as good as it can be. So we're certainly doing stuff in terms of technology. We're certainly doing things in terms of Brexit preparations. We're certainly doing things in terms of recruitment, and as always, we're doing things in terms of procurement as well. But also another thing that we're doing is our sort of technology offering and our digital marketing offering. We're working on how we can help engineers. Engineers typically aren't salespeople. I think that's fair to say. So we're looking at all the ways we can help our clients, not just in manufacturing and engineering, but also in vehicle leasing, in printing and display, in digital agencies and web design, those sorts of sectors, absolutely everything. How can we help you market to your prospects? So we're doing that more and more, and we've just launched some exciting packages, which I'm looking forward to sort of seeing how they get going.
Yeah, we were speaking about that before the show, and yeah, it sounds interesting. Certainly, being able to get more scale, more value out of things without people having to take on a whole new skill set of learning how to run this sort of promotion and the sales side of
absolutely. And I think it comes down to, why should you overcomplicate what you do? If you're very good at doing something, do it, and leave the other things to other experts. And you see that more and more in businesses. You're seeing people outsourcing their marketing function or their sales function, because there are businesses such as ours who know what they're doing and they know how to get the most for your money. So yeah, I think it's a really good angle that we've taken to just try and help our clients to get the most for their money and get their exposure and their engagement up. So looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Well, thanks for joining us today and giving us a bit of insight and understanding from your side of the market. Is there a best way of getting in contact with yourself or the appropriate department at Applegate?
Absolutely. So if you want to speak to me, you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. My Twitter handle is JR_marketeer. Applegate on Twitter at Applegate_B2B, or you can find us at applegate.co.uk. Be really keen to sort of speak to people in this industry and see if there's any ways that we can work together to sort of power through Brexit and go from strength to strength in the industry. So any way you can find me, I'm happy to chat.
And we also get to be getting to see you more regularly in person, as it were, as on LinkedIn. You've been sharing some videos with your colleague of what are available RFQs and stuff that's on your website that week.
Yeah, so yeah, do follow us on LinkedIn. We've done a few videos now. I think we've been under attack in one video from seagulls. In another, we've sort of been exposed to the elements with the wind. But we're starting to bring clients on board who are sort of seeing the request for quotation we get, because that is the core of what we do. People come to us with requests for quotes, and we'll provide them with those quotes. Suppliers are joining us from those videos because it's much clearer what we do. So I'd certainly recommend watching out for those weekly RFQ videos. And I'd appreciate your sort of thoughts and feedback on that when we're not being attacked by something or other.
It adds a smile as well as being informative where you've been getting in there. That's been great. Well, thanks for joining us today, Jack, and I look forward to following along and getting up on your website too.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for chatting. I look forward to listening to more of the podcasts.
That's great. Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us today on the Cliff Notes podcast. If you'd like to speak to myself or the guests, you can get in contact with us at CliffNotesPod on Twitter or cliffnotespodcast.com and come through on the website. That's great, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again next time.